Okay.
That's all right. If the sticky is off the microphone, it'll help. Just a couple of things that would be useful in searching for a camera. You should be aware that pixel size, it can run anywhere from really, really small, like 2.4 microns per pixel, or to say 4.63. The larger your pixels, the more light you're going to get in. I generally find that makes things easier. The other thing would be speed, but pixel size is a good one to look at, and I'll don't occupy everything, so we'll see who else has got a suggestion.
So maybe leveraging on what Alan said, Steve, have you used any calculators to help you match your telescope with the camera that you're thinking about? So like, do you use Stellarium or online calculators of any kind to sort of pair the two and see what kind of resolution you're going to get with your system?
Yeah, I have. As a matter of fact, yeah, Jeff pointed me towards astronomy tools. So
Yeah, there's lots of different calculators. So
yeah,
that's good that you've done that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, me rookie here thinking a wider field is better. So I can see how some of these cameras can either give you a wider field or a more focused field.
So that's good. So let's go back to your other questions about, gain and things like that. The camera that you're thinking about, have you already looked at the specifications for that camera? Is it an ASI camera or a QHY? Whose brand is it?
Oh, I'm looking at this ZWO, was it 2600 or something like that?
Okay, great. So on their website,
camera, by the way.
Yeah, it's a good camera. And I just think that you'll be happy with that camera. It has nice performance. If you look at the website, their website, you'll find the charts for the gain and, and other settings, the read noise and what have you. And what I would say to start out with is just use that sweet spot. That camera has a digital gain associated with it that's something on the order of 120, or you'll see it. There's a step there where the noise comes down lower. And use that gain and start experimenting. And then I'd say the other thing you have to do is figure out how long of exposures you're going to have. I would start out, there's calculators online. Have you seen any of the calculators at like Cloudy Nights that give you a hint for how long your exposure should be given that your system basically?
No, I haven't done that.
I would recommend that you go to Cloudy Nights and start looking around, do a search on exposure calculators for that camera. And what you'll wind up looking at is a chart that shows you what kind of sky you're taking pictures in. Is it a city lights kind of sky, or is it like CAC, really dark? And then for the gain that you are going to use, it will tell you this is the kind of exposure that you should be looking at. And my guess would be that to start out with, you might want to be in the shorter exposures, probably something on the order of a minute, right, as a test case, and see if your camera is saturating. If you're getting stars that are saturated in those short exposures, you're going to have to go even shorter to avoid the saturation. If they're not saturating, you can go longer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and I just play it out. Take a few little exposures, see how badly your stars are saturating. If they're not saturating, you can crank it up a little bit, especially if your mount is reasonable, right? If you're not having troubles with guiding or tracking.
Okay.
If you are,
since Doug mentioned these online calculators, in a few minutes I'll share with you some of the resources that we've put together, and in those resources there's links to the calculators. So
good.
You can look forward to that in a little bit here.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, let me jump in here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna show you some images first, and then I'm going to ask the question. About 1 or 2 weeks ago, I sent you an email about my topic of color rendering, and we talked about it. And you suggested that maybe I bring it up at this beginners, newbies meeting. I consider myself a newbie. I've been doing this for about a year, but still I have way long before I consider myself experienced. I'm going to try to share the screen. If I know how to do that, I'm not a big Zoom guy, but I'm going to try to share the screen and then bring up. All right, let's see. Start sharing. All right. Maybe I can do it. Wait a second. Okay. All right, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I hope it works out. So this is SH2-284 that I captured probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago. All this is after stacking, I did an STF. So if you follow through this, I processed this in about 4 or 5 or maybe 6 different ways. Okay, I don't remember what the ways are. It doesn't really matter whether I remember or not, because my question will explain why I'm asking. So this is what I got initially. So this is one of the first images I created. I think it was an HOO image after I did a stretch on it, a permanent stretch on it. And then I wanted to bring out more of the orange, make it more yellow, and I created this image right here. After a while, I decided that I didn't like what I'm seeing. So instead, I created this image, which was basically, I think it was HOO, HA with a normalized normalization. And I didn't care for that either, all right? So I just tweaked it some more with curves, and I created this image right here. And Greg, this is the image I actually sent you that you commented on. Now, I actually posted this image on AstroBin, and I got a lot of likes. Now, what I typically do when I create an image, and I'm not sure if the color is right or whether the background is right, I send it to probably 1 or 2 people. One is Randy, who's on this call, and the other one is Doug. And I usually get feedback saying that, you know, you're blowing out the stars, or there's too much green in it, etc. So Randy sent me this image he did, which I believe was an HOO image. Randy, you can comment if I'm making a mistake. And then he showed me another image he created, which I really like. To me, this is what I would love to basically get if I were doing this from scratch. So my basic question is, when I go back to this image as a newbie, I look at it and I say, what do I want to bring out of this image? I'll go to AstroBin and I'll look at different folks' rendition of the same image. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing that what the best image is probably something that I like. But I also hear from some people that say you need to find something that's more real color or real life, or, you know, I forget what the term is, but more like natural color. Okay, I'm not sure where natural color comes from. I don't know. No one's gone out there to look at this image to see what it really looks like. So that's my question: is how do you look at an image you've captured, and decide where you want to go with it? As a newbie, I've been struggling with this topic for a year, because I just start doing things, and when I get to something I like, that's when I send it to the family, and they love everything anyway. But I don't post everything on AstroBin unless I'm really happy with it, and unless I've completely created it myself. If I ask, you know, Doug or Randy or David for some input, and I change my image based on that input, I don't consider that as something I created completely, so I won't post it. I'll keep it in my archives, but I don't post it. So I only post images that I'm really happy with and that I created completely. But again, the question is, I don't know, looking at any image, not just this, what is it you take out of it to create what you want to create? And that's the basic question. How do you render something like this in what's color? I'll stop sharing so we can have a conversation.
So actually leave the picture there for a moment, because I'm going to answer one piece of your question that is near and dear to my heart. Okay. And by the way, there may be no right answer here. Okay. I'm going to give you an answer, but I'm not going to claim it's the right answer.
Okay.
So if you've noticed, and maybe people have noticed and maybe they haven't, I have yet to post any picture that is not natural color. Okay. I'm not a fan of colors that are just mapped to anything that you want. People love false color. There's a reason for it and people enjoy it, and it's not me. So natural color to me is the color that the light would naturally give off for the wavelength that it's representing. Okay. HA is not purple. And and galaxies are not purple, and so people like to color their galaxies purple. Okay, but if you know what integrated starlight looks like, it's generally speaking, especially when it's coming from a galaxy that's maybe hundreds of millions of light years away. Generally speaking, it's a little on the white side. It might even be a little bit redder than that, but HA is red and sulfur is red. And so if you start looking at the chemical compositions and you map those into their actual wavelengths, you have real colors. And I'm going to call that natural color. Okay. So if you choose to map colors into colors that are not natural, if you take HA and make it green, it's fine. You can do that. People like it. And you may get a ton of likes for it, but just know that it's not natural. And my recommendation would be that if you do that, it's often a best practice to just call it false color, right? This is a false colored image. And that way people aren't confused by that. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to answer the rest of your question, but about the natural colors, stick to the wavelength regime, right? If you look at the rainbow and you map the rainbow into the wavelengths, you'll know what colors are natural colors. And then you can decide, do I want to change those into a false color palette and go from there and be happy. Yeah.
There's so many tools out with normalization that Blanchard just came out with, that when I use that tool, there's myriad colors you can come up with. So to do natural colors, do I strictly, after a stretch, use curves to bring out the colors? Or is that the way to do it or not? I don't know.
Are you using, what camera are you using out of curiosity?
2600 color.
Okay, so if you're using the one-shot color 2600, if you do a natural stretch straight out of the camera, and then you can use saturation, okay, to bring that that color saturation up, you're going to get the actual colors that are there. Now, of course, you're going to want to do some kind of color correction, because right straight out of the camera, you're going to get a lot of green because there's 2 green pixels for every other pixel, right? Yeah. And so you need to at least do your background neutralization. I would recommend a color calibration, but then the colors that you're looking at are the colors that camera gave you. Yeah. And if you go beyond that into Blanchard's, color mapping, now you're changing. And I will say that if you take curves and instead of just using the RGB to bring up and down the intensity for curves, if you switch into the red, the green, or the blue and start dragging those curves into directions, you are changing the color for the natural, part of that picture. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Completely.
Okay. All right.
John, let me.
One more thing.
Oh,
You probably want to use SCNR to take the green out of the image.
Okay. Yep. I do. Yep.
yeah, that's a good point. What I found works really well is after you take the green out, or even before you take the green out, is to do a color balance based on the stars. So if you get the color balance of the stars correct, then the light that's coming, from the nebula or the galaxy or whatever is going to be what the human eye would see if the human eye could, detect that. So in this image here, there's not a lot of star color. So it would be difficult for me to say, where to go with this without having the ability to, look for some appropriate stars to figure out what the star color is. So that's usually the first step that I do. And then, as I think Doug mentioned, you can then go back and boost the saturation in red or blue or not so much green, but you can change the saturation to bring those colors out more. But I think if you're looking for natural color, you can use the stars as a starting point. And then, of course, you want to make sure that your background is close to black, if not perfectly black, but at some small level above black. And a lot of times, just correcting the background so that it's at a low level of gray or almost black will dramatically improve the color rendition in the color part. So,
Okay, well, you know, it's funny because sometimes I'll send an image out to one of our members and say, what do you think? I may get a text back saying that you have to lighten the background a little bit, or you have to darken the background. So I have no idea what that means. I know how to do it, but I don't know. Looking at this image right here, I don't know if this background, remove the stars, is it too dark, too light? I have no idea.
it looks too light. It looks too light to me.
Okay,
Not-
should it be
Not too
black?
much, but just maybe a little.
But my question is, should it be black?
No. No, the
Yeah,
sky's
you don't want
not
it to be black.
Okay, so darkening it is a relative thing. I mean, there's no, there's no,
It- the way I do it, John,
on a
is
scale of zero to 1, is it a 0.2, if you know what I mean? I don't know what,
yeah,
I struggle with that, is my point.
you're talking in Pix Insight terms, but for example, if it's an 8-bit image where the colors are 0 to 255,
Right.
I would tend to try and get the background somewhere around 15 to 20.
Okay,
Okay.
No, but it's more you know it when you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to explore this space and you're going to discover, like all beginners discover, like we all did, that in the beginning you might want it blacker. Okay. And you'll do the blacker, and then people will say, oh, that's a little too black. And then, you'll lighten it up and you may go too far. You know what? We go back and forth on this, but I know that for sure you don't want it black, and you
Right.
don't really want it, bright gray. Okay. Somewhere where you've got it here and probably slightly blacker in the background will give you a little more pop on the rest of the subject. And
Okay.
you're just going to have to explore that. I don't think there's a number there. Now, if you really wanted to, we could talk offline. You can
Yeah.
use the histogram tool, and I could show you basically where you want that histogram to be, right? Because if it's all the way up against the left edge, well, that's not good. Okay. And if it's off the left edge too far, well, that's too bright. And so there's a sweet spot in there that you're going to discover. And it looks like you're already 90% there. Okay. I mean, you're really close. And if you just go maybe just slightly more to the, to the left, a little
Right, but-
darker,
But
you'll be good.
my background is engineering, so 90 doesn't work.
Actually, the histogram comment is very apropos, but what really will help you is if you go start looking at similar images on Astrobin and look at what their histograms are, you'll see that you want your peaks to be somewhere in that first quarter, but not too far to the right or too far to the left.
Okay.
You'll see it very quickly.
Okay, good. All right, thank you, gentlemen. I will stop sharing, I guess, and hopefully I can do that. Let me see if I can. All right, we're back.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody, for your comments. I appreciate it.
If one last suggestion, if you're looking, pick somebody, probably in this group or whatever, whose work you like. And then this is what I have done a lot of. I sort of slavishly try and duplicate what Randy or Doug have done. And I find that helps. I get some idea of how it is that they're doing things, and I can contact that and ask them directly if I get stuck.
Right, well, Randy and Doug are my go-to critics.
And I think what you'll discover over time is that You know, it's flattering to be copied, but you're going to discover that after you do it a few times, you'll say, you know what, I don't like what they did. I'm going to explore a little bit here, and you'll find your own style soon
Yeah,
enough.
I know. There, I mean, I see images that I don't, I mean, they're great, but I wouldn't I wouldn't produce them that way. And I think, I guess what it boils down to is it's what the creative part of you brings out. I think that's what's important. But anyway.
I do think it's interesting, though. I mean, the comment previously about going out to Astrobin, this is a really good comment because I do almost all of my images. I'll always go to Astrobin. I'll take a look at what other people are doing, and then I'll decide for myself what I think is important and what I want to see for myself. So it's a good, you know, you get a good range of ideas that you'll look at, and you'll say to yourself, oh, I don't like that, but I really like that. And eventually you'll find that sweet spot for yourself that makes you happy. Right?
Yeah, I've done that. I mean, about a year ago, there was I think it was called the Fishhead Nebula that I think Randy came up with. He shared that with folks, and I captured it, and I could never create I could never create it as like Randy did because I think he was using a mono camera, and I had my one shot, but I colored the hell out of it, and I sent it to my family. They loved it. It looked like it was a Picasso with no, not a Picasso, I forgot his name now, but there's so many colors in it, and they loved it. I said I would never post it anyplace because it's just too wild.
Yeah, let me just say, I always, if I don't know the object, I always go to Astrobin because I'm after 2 or 3 things. I want to see how much is there to help me with the field of view and the orientation and where is really the center of this. And Astrobin typically has the coordinates there, and it's helpful to know exactly what is the center of what you're seeing. I also am looking at different color renditions, and you know, I'm maybe not quite the opposite extreme from Doug, but I'm pretty close to the other end of it, because to me, color calibration is the starting point. Then all I want to do is make it wow. And if I've turned it green and I like it and it says wow to me, I'm good with that. But in those 2 examples you had, I'll typically try to get it that's pretty traditional. Then I'll zap it with the narrowband neutralization, or whatever that one is, narrowband normalization, and that'll turn it into Hubble. And I look at it, all the options. I just look and see what pleases me. But Astrobin, it really does help you understand what is there, how much nebulosity is there, what kind of field of view, what camera rotation is the most effective for this, and how much can I get of what I want there. So, I go to it, particularly if I don't know the object at all. Because so much of the time, I'll spend half an hour or more doing nothing but rotating the camera or changing exactly where the center point is so I can maximize how much of nebulosity I can get in that frame. So anyway, that's way off what you ask about.
No. I mean, it's all good input for newbies like me.
Also on Astrobin, if you look at something that got at least a top pick or image of the day, there's going to be some good things about that that you can look and see why did they get the top pick? Why did they get image of the day? That means somebody decided, or a panel of people decided that on the beauty contest that they liked it. So anyway.
Okay.
All right, let's take a minute. I'm going to share the screen and show you some of the beginner resources that we've put together. All right, can everybody see this?
Yep.
Yes.
Let me go to the top here. So this is some information that Jeff and some of the others have contributed. And the first part up here are websites and YouTube channels that are really good for beginners. So you see the first one listed there is actually our forum. And if you're not familiar with that, please get familiar, because that's where you can ask questions any time of the day or night, and probably somebody will respond to you. Cloudy Nights has an entire section that's pretty complex that has stuff for beginners. One of the ones that's really good, I think, is Astro Backyard. This guy does a little bit of everything from equipment to processing, pretty heavy on equipment. So if you're interested in looking at various different scopes or cameras or mounts, he has a lot of that. And then there are a few other ones here that Jeff has put in, and you can see under the comments over here what the content of those particular sites are. And we'll post this on the TAA forum file site. So I'll send you a link to it, and you can peruse it at your leisure. Down here at the bottom, you see astronomy tools, and that's one of the many online calculators that can help you decide, how to frame an image, what sort of pixel scale you might get with a certain camera and a certain telescope. And here's some more of the same things here, with notes over here as to what these particular websites have to offer. In addition, we have a listing of the imaging resources that have come from this group. Most of these are just PowerPoint slides, so there's no audio to go with them. Some of them have a recorded session that goes along with the slides. So the very top link up here is the playlist for the AISIG presentations that have been recorded. And then there's listing here of the slide sets that the person who gave the talk contributed. These are all contained already in the file section of the TAA forum. And you can see, so there are a couple of them where the video recording is included. But all of these, when you click on the link, you don't automatically get the PDF or PowerPoint to open. What it'll do is it'll download to your system. So then you have to open it after it's been downloaded. So it's kind of confusing the first time you try to access any of these, simply because the TAA, the Groups IO forum treats them as something that you want to download rather than just opening them automatically. So again, this will get posted on the site tomorrow, and I'll send out a link for it. Any questions on that? As I said, there's a little bit of everything there, from selecting a camera to different types of mounts, as well as some kind of obtuse stuff like how to take pictures of meteors and things like that. Okay, any more beginner questions?
I have more.
Okay, that's why we're here.
All right. So actually, it's related to that image I captured earlier. I think I had 240, 4 hours, 60-second subs on there. This was I guess about a week and a half, no, 2 weeks ago. Out of the 240, about 42 or 43 of them I saw extensive cloud cover, mist, and I removed those before I stacked it using Blink. I tried an experiment. I removed those and I did the stack with the remaining 100 and whatever it was, 98 subs, and it turned out fine. What I went back and added all those stubs back again, the ones I would have removed because I almost couldn't see the stars when I was blinking. It's just how bad they were. The WBPP removed a bunch of bad frames, not as many as I removed, but the image that resulted was the same or better than my hand removing the bad images. So my question is, I realize, you know, when you get airplanes or something that goes by the screen, you don't bother because WBPP will remove those. But am I better off just running everything without even blinking, unless I have star streaks, running it all and see what happens? Or should I be selectively removing, you know, overcast images?
I'll
Anybody?
give you an opinion.
Yep.
My opinion is that you do not want to use your clouded out images, right? I throw mine out. There are other people, famous people, Adam Block, I think, would tell you to throw them all in, okay? Just put them in. And it's really a signal to noise ratio kind of a problem. But if you think about what's happening with PixInsight, for example, you're stacking all of those images together. Every pixel is stacked. So if you have 100 frames of an image and every pixel think of it as a stack of pixels. If half of those pixels are clouded, then your average for that pixel is going to be biased by the cloud. Okay. And so you want to be careful. If you throw in a few frames, if you have lots of frames and they're all good and a few of them are bad, okay, and you wind up stacking them all together, well, then the number of bad pixels as compared to the total number of the stacked images is small. And so it would be okay to do that. If you've got 10 frames, half of which are bad, and you try and stack those and use them, you're gonna wind up with a bad result. So what I would say is if you're taking lots of frames and you've got lots of good data and you're gonna squeeze a few crappy frames in there, well, you might get away with it. But I would generally say don't do it if you can avoid it. That's my opinion. Others can take over and share their thoughts there.
All right.
I think if you read some of the people that have written books about PI, they almost universally recommend that you run Blink before you go to WBPP. For all kinds of reasons. Elon's Starlink could be scattering across your screen, and you may not even realize it. If you go to Blink, you're going to realize it. Get rid of the image.
All right. Thank you.
Um, I'd like to add something to that too. I got a question. Let's see, who was it? John here, who was just
Yep.
now? Oh, it's you. Okay, I'm on the screen. Do you use? I got a question. Do you use an ASI Air for your?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. Well, you run it off a tablet, right?
Actually, I'm running it off a phone.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I run mine off of a tablet, and I got myself a fairly good size, and you can get a pretty good resolution image. I got like, what was that, 1920, 1008 by 1920. You know, I just happened to be able to get one for a reasonable price. So, and I find that I like to use that. It gives the images when you load them in afterwards. The images are all in order, how you took them. And you can actually, it'll also give you the size of the star, how much resolution you got. Like they'll give you the average star size in arc seconds, or in some units there, whatever that is. And usually what I find that this is actually much easier to use than Blink. Because then you don't have to load anything in. You just got it. You can just look at it. And then if you don't like the image, you can discard it if it's turned out it was, you know, if it looked like something that was totally unusable. And then kind of narrow it down. And then when it's time to go to weighted batch processing, WPP or whatever that is, that first step in PixInsight, and then all you have to do is just load them in. And you don't have to, after you've eliminated all the stuff that, you know, all the bad stuff in between, and you get a chance to look at it in detail that way too. You can do it on your, you can just, you do your thing on your tablet. Now, if you're using the phone, you probably wouldn't get that quite that good of resolution.
Right.
But that's one advantage if you if you can do it off of a tablet. That tablet turned out to be one of my most treasured possessions after I got it. And then when you see the images when they're forming and as it's taking them, and then you can see, get a nice high resolution image there, and you sit, hold it in your lap and sit in the warm room, and how to cack and while it's taking, and it's so, but it's kind of it's a painless way to
Yeah.
image.
Yeah, my wife has an iPad. I have to fight her for it, so I'm not gonna win that battle.
Well, you can get yourself one. I got one from. I can even show you the model that I got from Walmart. It's kind of a reasonable price to get it.
I think Blink is a much more efficient way to look at them, Paul. You can you've got to load them on your computer anyway, so put them on there, and you can set Blink up. I use 0.3 seconds as that lets me have time to see every one of them. They're already stretched, and they're all right there, and I can go through 200 of them and see any that are suspect, and I can probably do that, in a minute. And I would think, I understand what you're talking about doing on but also bear in mind, you're seeing a JPEG image on your iPad because that is what's displayed out of the air. You're not seeing the FITS image at all. So that's just my 2 cents worth that you're going to save a lot of time by using Blink in PixInsight or some other tool and do it that way. And you got to load them on your computer anyway, so that's not lost time either. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, well, everybody has their own way of their own method that works best for them.
So when I included those 40 some odd files, WBPP removed about 15 of them. So, did I remove too many files? I don't know, but it did reject about 15 of them. So I ended up with 25 more than I thought I had when I removed them myself.
It's probably going to kick them out on registration. That's usually if it eliminates some, that'll mean it couldn't line up the stars adequately, and you don't want those anyway.
Right.
Then Doug makes a good point. If you've got a lot of good frames, don't pollute it with some that are bad, and it doesn't take that long to spot those things.
Yeah, well, that's another question, not for this day. But how many frames is enough? That's a whole nother thing.
You're full of questions, John.
I am. Tonight I got ramped up. It's been a year. I've been adding them down. I've got my list here. I've been adding and put them all down here.
I can give you an initial impression about the answer to that question, okay? If you stack all your images together and you look at the background and you see the background is just noisy as all get out, you can be guaranteed that you didn't take enough subs, okay? If you take that image and you start stacking them together and you see noise in the background, but it's not horrible, it's noise. I mean, it's there. If you took 1,000 frames, you still have noise back there. Right. But you can begin to tell, you're going to get a feel for this over time, that when you take your image and you look at the backgrounds and you see that they're really noisy, you'll know that you underdid it on the number of subs that you took to get that image. And if you're trying to stretch it hard and then use noise exterminator to hammer the background down, eventually you'll realize that that's a kind of a crutch, noise exterminator. There's no excuse for enough signal. Go get the right signal and then use noise exterminator, not as a crutch for bad signal, but as a tune-up on the good signal that you have. Yeah.
I understand.
Watch your backgrounds. It'll tell you.
Yes, I need to take that advice too.
We've all been inclined on occasion to hammer the backgrounds down for not good enough signal using noise exterminator or some other trick, right? So, but the idea is don't do that. Go get the right amount of signal in the first place.
You know, my M33 shot was a little that way. I think it probably that was about an hour and a half's worth of frames. Remember that we have it on the big screen out there at TAC. And I remember you replaced it, mine, you replaced yours with that, remember, a while back, and thought it turned out pretty well. But the faint areas, I found out the blur exterminator worked. That's with blur exterminator only, not with noise. The noise added some additional artifacts, so I couldn't use it. And it might have been because maybe if I had a little more, probably should have maybe taken 2.5 hours worth of subs for that. I plan to do in the future. And that would probably, the noise exterminator probably would have lent itself a lot better. It didn't lend itself to that particular image. So.
All right, well, we've kind of gotten from the beginners part into some more detailed stuff about image processing. Anybody else want to share comments or questions, whether it's beginner or advanced? Okay,
I have an advanced question that has just absolutely got me confused. I had SPCC running for quite a while. And of course, as you know, you have to download all the data files from Gaia and the whole 9 yards. But now it won't run. It says it can't see the files. I've uninstalled them, I've reinstalled them. It's one of the most recent updates. I totally lost it and I had to go back to photometric color calibration. Does anybody have a similar issue with SPCC right now?
No,
Yeah, no.
you just have to make sure that PixInsight knows where those files are.
Yeah, I
And
did.
if you
I
haven't
used
pointed
Gaia
it to the right place, then it's not going to find them.
I use Gaia to put them in, and it's all according to Hoyle, but it isn't working.
No, but if you click on the little wrench,
Right.
when you go, yeah, and then there's a path there that says where those files are. Are you sure that those are mapped correctly? That you've got the right path for where those files are when you pop open that wrench setting?
Well, I mapped them with Gaia, which is the way that Block tells you to install them. And I'll click on the wrench and see what I can find out.
Yeah.
But they're all
Yeah,
there.
there's a directory. Yeah, no, I'm sure, I believe you that they're all there. It's just that if the SPCC is not finding them, then it's likely that it, for whatever reason, hasn't got the directory mapped correctly. And if you click on that wrench, it'll tell you where it thinks it's looking for those files. And what you'll probably find is that they're not matched up with what Gaia did. Yeah.
I'll give that a shot. Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Hey, Greg, I do have a question. This is my first time on this call, so it's nice to meet everyone. I've been in the chat for a little while, and I've met a couple of you down at CAC. So tell me if there's a different place that I should be asking this question. But I was using the 14-inch Celestron down in the Wally Rogers Observatory and was doing some imaging on it in February, which is just a fabulous piece of equipment to be able to have access to. Question of does that get collimated? Is there a process or a schedule for collimating that?
Anybody?
That telescope is really well collimated. And they have just recently, I think, went through and checked it again. So it should be in pretty good form. The group there that does the maintenance on the telescopes does it periodically. I don't remember exactly how often.
Okay, so it is done periodically. Yeah, that's my question. It's just naturally, it's an SCT. It's going to need to be collimated with some frequency. I just wondered when that happened.
I got a question for you. Did you suspect that it might have been out of collimation? Like you maybe had some like star images that were elongated on one side of the frame and not the other?
Paul, no, when I was trying to get it in focus, it's kind of your typical collimation for an SCT, right? Move it in and out of focus on a star. It looked to me like it was out of collimation, just because with the diffraction rings and their orientation in there. The image, I only had time to take one image. I mean, I was thrilled with the image I got out of it. Actually, it was a great image of the Crab Nebula. I mean, I think, but I was very happy with it.
Could you show
One
it?
way to really know if it's out of collimation is to drive that focus way out and look at the donuts, and then you'll see the central obstruction. And if it's not centered, if it doesn't look centered like a centered donut, it's out of collimation. And you can just tell somebody, maybe the host or whatever, hey, this needs a little tune up here. But generally speaking, that's the way to look.
Yeah, that's what I did, as I was messing with focus, and and then I tried some planetary, didn't work, but then, like I said, the crab came out great. So, hence my question. Got it. Thanks.
All right. Anything else?
Do you have time for a shared image?
Sure.
Let me see if I can get this happy. Okay. This is a picture I just finished today. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Can you see it?
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is kind of a unique galaxy, NGC 3521, the bubble galaxy. I'd never bumped into this before, and but I think it came out reasonably well, and they call it the bubble because I don't know. Can you see my cursor?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so there's the faintest shell of an arc right here. I had more of it, but I wanted to focus on the galaxy, and to make the galaxy come out nicer, the internals of the galaxy, I kind of gave up a little of the signal on the outer edge of this bubble. But pretty interesting little galaxy, and so I'd recommend it. It gives up a lot of detail. It's only 40 million light years away, so it's reasonably sized.
That's in Leo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And,
I know about this. Messier should have caught this one. He missed it. It's a
worthy object. I'd say go chase it. If you haven't done it before, worth a chase. So just thought I'd share that with folks, and I'll send out a link. I always post my stuff to the forum. I'll send out a link to the AstroBin stuff, and which has some description of the object and the capture materials. But this is a little over 9 hours of data at f2.
Wow.
And so a nice, reasonably enough signal there to get a picture. Yeah.
Was this with the C11 and Hyperstar, Doug?
It's a Raza, which is essentially a hyperstar, right? So yeah,
Got it.
F22. And this was all 45-second frames. So there's like 740 sub exposures here, 45 seconds each. So
that's a lot of that's a lot of gigabytes there.
Yeah, it only took about 16 hours to run. So I just started it and went to bed, okay, and then got up the next morning, and I still had to wait a couple hours to be able to look at the image. So that's the way it goes sometimes. That's the pain of having a small pixels that saturate quickly is you know, you wind up with a lot of subframes, and so the post-processing, you pay for that on the back end in post-processing. So
Yeah.
okay, I'll let other people do their thing.
Yeah,
I'll
I
stop
like to
sharing.
show one. Mm. Let's see. What the heck? Where did I? Yeah, I can't find them. What happened here? All right. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can. No, that's not the one I wanted to show. Basic. I don't. What the heck? It's not giving me any. I'll get rid of this. Maybe I can. Oh, here we go. Photos. Okay, share screen. Okay, can you see it?
Thor's helmet.
Yes.
Yay! Yep. Well, this is, well, see if I can get it to cover the whole, oops. I thought it was going to cover the whole thing. I guess that's it. Oh, here we go. Well, this is 5 hours of frames I took out at CAC. Some of taken through somewhat mediocre skies. That's why I probably could have gotten this picture in a lot less, in probably about half this time if it had been a pristine night, but it turned out to be my last chance to photograph that this season. And then the weather crapped out on us the last couple of months after I took this in January, if I recall. But I've been wanting to take this. By the way, there are a couple of clusters. There's one here that's called, what is that? Hamburg 6 or something like that. Never heard. And then this is one that's, I don't know what it's uncatalogued here. But anyway, we can kind of, okay, can you see the zooming in here? And here's the bubble, got some detail. This was with the 6-inch refractor, f8, working at f6.4, using a ZWO 2600 MC Pro. It's a, and of course, just like what I said before, it's a some of us already also used it. It's a fantastic camera. But anyway, that's what I thought I'd show. And it's probably one of the best images I've ever taken, I think.
Paul, I like the color you've got there. I have a very similar image done with a monochrome camera and LRGB filters, and it looks very, very similar to the colors you got.
Oh, gee. Yeah, well, I'll tell you, you know, that's one thing I've never had the patience for, is going to you know, LRGB and using a monochrome camera. And it's one extra layer of things that, you know, can go wrong and so forth. And I like these, I mean, this is really, I mean, this is a state-of-the-art single shot color camera. I don't know, as far as I can tell here.
And your color
Yeah.
balancing looks really good.
Yeah. This was, by the way, was with SPCC, color calibration. So, did you hear that, Doug? Color calib SPCC on that shot.
Yeah, nice. That's good.
I send it to you. I think if I remember to post on the big screen out there. This is one of the recent ones. But anyway, let's see. I'll stop the share here.
I have one I'd like to share. Randy knows this. I don't think anybody else does. I built an observatory in October. And the newest addition to my observatory is a Celestron 14. And this is it. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. I know everybody does M42, but I was thrilled because I have a very simple method of almost pre-processing, and I got the trapezoid without doing a lot of work. Can you see it?
No.
Oh,
Share your screen, Vincent.
got,
Oh, I thought I was sharing my screen.
Nope.
Sorry. Share screen.
It gets a little tricky sometimes. You have to pick on the image. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. Share. You see it now?
Not yet.
Maybe now?
Still not yet.
Sorry.
Can
You have to
If I
share your
can't do this pretty
video.
quickly, I'm going to be done.
Yeah, I think you might have to share your video in order to also share the screen or start your
And
video
that
in
isn't
order
sharing.
to share the screen.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a green thing. you
I
click on
give
to
up.
Share screen.
Maybe just a quick comment on your trapezium thought, though. You can get the trapezium if you go with short exposures. The problem is how much signal did you get on the outer dust and what have you, right? So if you keep those exposures short, you'll get the trapezium. If you try and go long to get that outer dust and get the fullness of that region, you'll blow out the trapezium. So that's the problem, is that you've got this dichotomy there where you've got to deal with both kinds of problems. That's why they call it high dynamic range, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm doing 45-second subs. But I managed to get the trapezium.
Yeah, it's always fun.
That's wonderful.
Okay, I want to mention again, if you would like to submit your images to be included in the Desert Sky Bulletin, you need to just send them to me. Or if you want to share any of your pictures with the Desert Sky Bulletin.
Is this it?
There
Is
it
this
is.
what
You
were
got
trying?
it.
Oh, wow. Boy, you really got that that outer. Yeah, you really extended the dynamic range on this. So what equipment was used for this?
I'm using a C14 ASI Air. This is the 6200. And this was my first image with that new scope. And I'm just ecstatic about how it turned out.
Wait, C14, the image would have been, the scale would have been prodigious. You would have just gotten if you're at that, did you have like was it like with a hyperstar on it?
I'm using a Hyperstar.
Oh, okay, on a C14?
I have hyperstars on both my C11 and my C14.
And this is with the 14?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I was gonna say, I mean, that's a wide field image. And if you were taking it at prime focus, at the Cassegrain focus, you would have, just the Hygenian region would be filling that whole frame, you know?
So it's 100 subs at 45 seconds and using the Antlia RGB filter.
Vince, just a comment. It looks like your flats might be overcorrecting.
I'm
a
sorry, I
little
can't
bit.
hear you.
It's Randy. It looks like your flats may be overcorrecting just because the corners of your image seem to have a lightness, even the areas that might be dark. It's just a comment.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I wondered how much of that was just the gases.
Well, if it
Yeah,
were
some of this
even,
looks like these look like gas clouds on them. I mean,
It-
there's like striations. This looks like a definite formations of nebulosity there around the corners.
no, there is nebulosity. It just, the corners, it looks like an inverted flat frame to me, and that's just the comment. Your flats may be overcorrecting there.
So
I don't know.
how would I remedy that, Randy?
New flats, add on new flats at a lower exposure. Doug, you may, I don't know if you see
Answer-
the same thing.
Yeah, I do, but I have another thought, which is that, is there any chance that you used automatic background extraction when you,
I did.
Okay, that's what caused this, all right?
Oh.
If you look at the center, what happens with automatic background extraction is that the bright area of the nebula is so intense right there. What it winds up doing is it produces a black halo around around that bright nebula. And so that's why it's got, dark areas right around the nebula, and then it goes back to give you the lighter areas out on the very edges of the field. I would recommend that you use a different, tool. Either, dynamic background extraction is a little bit old now. They've got a newer tool, is any of those tools for any objects that are bright in the center of the field, because you're going to get a dark ring around them like you have here.
The other
Got
thing,
it. Thank you, Doug.
You're welcome.
other thing I've found just recently, because I finally installed the new Graxpert that works with the PI in the toolbox under scripts. And I found, even though I shot some images with no flats, that Graxpert AI did a really nice job of evening out the whole frame, even though it really did need flats. But after I put that on there, I said, well, forget the flats. I was surprised how well it did work. So much better than the standalone Graxpert I was using before.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I was gonna kind of wind things up by asking, is everybody going to view the eclipse next month?
Me?
Yes.
Definitely I am.
Good.
I think we're all going
Yes.
to Texas, aren't we? Texas is a big place, but I think most of us are going to be there, aren't we?
That's where I'm going, and I'm gonna take the little bitty sea star and see how it goes.
Ah,
I know.
cool.
The eclipse is going to cut Texas down to size, by the way. We'll see how they handle it with all of us. They think they're
I'm afraid we're all going to starve to death. That's what I'm really afraid of. I'm afraid that all those little towns are not going to have any food for us, right? Because it's going to be millions of people all condensed in that area, and then we're all going to starve.
That's
So
why you
take
stay
food.
with family, Doug.
Okay. I'll keep
Well,
that in mind.
I hope you all have good, clear skies, so there'll be a lots of images to share at the April meeting.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
And if you don't have clear skies, then you have to have a good story to tell.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll be one or the other or both.
Yeah.
If it's like the last image, be prepared for one hell of a traffic jam on I-10.
Yes.
For
It's
sure.
interesting that it's 2 days after Trinity's open house.
What's that? Trinity's open house. What's
Trinity has an open house twice a year, and the open house is on the weekend before the eclipse.
what's Trinity?
The nuclear site.
Okay, where is it?
New Mexico.
Eastern New Mexico, on the way to
Oh.
Texas.
Which side of Las Cruces?
East.
East? Oh, there. I won't be going there. I'm going to be going through. I won't be going through Las Cruces. I'll be bypassing it, going down to El Paso, and then out through Van Horn, and I'm going to be in Fredericksburg, Texas. It's about 100 miles north or northwest of San Antonio.
The dead center.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. It'll be. Oh, you mean you mean the center line?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Fredericksburg is right on the center line.
Yeah, we're supposed to get 4 minutes and 24 seconds of totality.
Good luck,
I was up at Dark Skies the other day for the lunch, and I don't know that there were too many people there, but one of the things that was discussed there was that a group of amateur astronomers all across the United States are going to be filming the entire eclipse. And they're going to use the film to study the corona and the gases as they're being emitted and try and figure out if there's rhyme or reason to those, to what structure the corona has. And they're actually going to make a movie of the entire eclipse as it works its way up across the country with
Yeah,
all these different
that ought to be
astronomers filming it.
Uh-huh. So
It sounds quite fun.
yeah, they tried that with the last one. I heard they were going to do that. I guess it didn't work out as well. I don't know. The one in 2017. I heard something about that too. That they were going to that they had a standard piece of equipment. It was I think it was an 80 millimeter. I don't know. It was one of those apochromatic, triplet lenses, or refractor. And I heard about that. So I guess, yeah, they're going to try this again. That'll be interesting. So yeah, we've got to hope for clear skies. Well, Texas is where you've got the best shot at it.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And hope for clear skies on April 8th, and we'll see you next month.
Uh-huh.
Okay.